Like, share, subscribe, and please follow me on all my social media platforms. Without further ado, we're going to get into this video. This is the top 5 biggest matches in EFC history. Number 5. Number 5 is Gareth Soldier Boy McClellan taking on Brendan Lazar. Now these two men are going to face each other because they were the coaches for the Fight Tour Season 2, which is a show where contestants come on to face each other at the shot of getting an EFC contract. Now people were wondering, will Gareth Soldier Boy McClellan be able to beat Brendan Lazar, or will Brendan Lazar knock out Gareth Soldier Boy McClellan? People thought Brendan was overhyped and this was an easy win for McClellan, but it proved otherwise, as Brendan was able to knock out Gareth Soldier Boy in the first round, proving that he is one of the best even at his old age, and people call it the biggest upset in EFC history. After this, Brendan Lazar would go on to face Dricus du Plessis, which we'll talk about that later. But this was a big fight because people were wondering who is the better man between the two, and the marketing was on point as it was one of the most packed houses. Number 4. Number 4 is Amanda Lino taking on Jacqueline. This wasn't their first encounter, as Amanda Lino and Jacqueline have faced each other before, and Amanda Lino beat her in 10 seconds. Now, but that's not why this fight is a big fight. This fight is big because they were going to crown their first ever women's flyweight champion. And if you look back at the past of EFC before this fight, it wasn't really well known for having big women fights. But this was, the change. This was what changed, women's fights in EFC, as Amanda Lino faced on Jacqueline for the second time to crown the first ever EFC flyweight champion. These two beat the heck out of each other. It was one of the best fights, and after this, we'd have fights like Amanda Lino versus Megan Furet, showing that this is one of the best women's division. But the winner would be Amanda Lino, and she would be the first ever EFC flyweight champion, proving to the world that she is one of the best. And the icing on the cake is that she won the championship in her hometown, in her home place in Durban. Number 3. Number 3 is Demar Pena taking on Aish Saeed for the second time. Now the first encounter was okay, but both men were retaliating and it looked like no action was going on. But this was changed for their second encounter, as at this point Demar Pena was 11-0 undefeated, and as fans wondered, could Aish Saeed be the one to dethrone Demar Pena, as on that first encounter he took Demar Pena to his limit. In this fight, Demar Pena won the fight as it was TKO in the 4th round when there was about 40 seconds left. We thought that Aish Saeed could maybe pull off the impossible, but Demar Pena stayed to be the best. There was a lot of hype around this. The video on YouTube has 2 million views, as it was watched by people overseas, from the UK, from America, from India, and all over the world. One of the best fights in EFC and one of the biggest fights in EFC history, as Demar Pena proved why he will go down as the best in EFC history. Number 2. Brendan Lazar vs Dricus du Plessis. Now why this is number 2 and is considered the second biggest EFC fight in history is because at this point Dricus had only had one loss in his EFC career and his MMA career, and that loss is from Gareth McClellan. Now earlier on I mentioned that Brendan Lazar was the only person to beat Gareth McClellan, so at this point people were questioning, if Brendan Lazar was able to beat the only person that had ever defeated Dricus du Plessis, would he be able to beat Dricus and take the title and become the official middleweight champion? Now these two had big hype, it wasn't heated between the two, there was no bad blood, but people were excited to see if Dricus would suffer his second loss or if Dricus would be able to stop the undefeated Brendan Lazar. At the end of the day, Dricus du Plessis did get the victory in the first round, surprising people, as people were predicting that it was going to go 5 rounds. Dricus was the victor and Dricus retained his championship belt. Before we go to number 1, honorable mention goes to Gareth McClellan vs Barry Britz at the first ever EFC event. This is an honorable mention because this was the first ever EFC fight in history, and this goes down as the first fight. And why this is on the list is because when it was the first time for people to see this event, these two set the stage and showed people what to expect from the EFC event. Now without further ado, let's go on to number 1. Number 1. Number 1 is Dricus du Plessis taking on Yannick Bahati. Now I feel like a lot of you guessed that this would be number 1. And why this was number 1 is because it was something different. We hadn't seen something like this before. And when I say something like this, I mean a build-up that was this anticipated, as Yannick Bahati came and played the bad guy. He played the bad villain. He trash talked South Africa, and he made us to the point where we seen who the villain and the hero is. Everyone was behind Dricus du Plessis. Everyone wanted Dricus du Plessis to win and beat Yannick Bahati. Yannick Bahati came in as the middleweight champion, and Dricus du Plessis was the welterweight champion. The championship on the line was the middleweight championship. Dricus du Plessis was 10 wins, 1 loss. Yannick Bahati was 8 wins, 2 losses. The big question on everyone's mind was Dricus du Plessis able to beat Yannick Bahati? Now surprisingly, Dricus du Plessis would beat Yannick Bahati in the first round, surprising a lot of people, and he would do it via submission, making the Black Mamba submit. Now a lot of people say, Yannick Bahati got what he deserved, but I say that he was able to create the biggest fight in EFC history. The bad mouthing, getting people invested in the fight, even people in England, people around the world was watching this fight. People all over the world know about this fight because he built so much hype to it. Dricus du Plessis became the first ever double champion. That's another reason why this is a big moment, because he was able to beat Yannick Bahati and he was able to become the first ever EFC double division champion. Dricus du Plessis is now in the UFC, and he and Yannick Bahati were able to give us the biggest fight in EFC history. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. And this keeps me going. This motivates me to do more videos, as the editing, the script, going back and watching all these videos to get them right actually takes a lot of time to do. The editing takes time, and I appreciate all the support. Please like, share, subscribe. Thank you very much for watching my video.